We'll go ahead and open the Tuesday, September 3rd pre-agenda meeting for the Iredell County Board of Commissioners. And I would ask Ms. Jones if there are any adjustments to the agenda.
We actually do have some adjustments. The first is just a notification that the Terramore development that is scheduled for a public hearing this evening, they have sent in a request to pull their rezoning application. Since that public hearing was opened at the previous meeting and continued, we'll still have to see if anybody has comments, but they have requested to pull their application. The next one is an addition under Administrative Matters, item 8.6, which is Jody Smyer is here, and he'll give us an update on Hurricane Dorian and the preparation for that. The next one is under closed session, which is removal of personnel under closed session. And the final item is the addition under presentation of special recognitions and awards. And Representative McNeely is going to be able to join us tonight, so we would like to recognize him for his time as a county commissioner.
Great. Any adjustments by commissioners? All right, then we will present the agenda as amended for approval at the 7 o'clock hour. Project R, this is will be briefed up by Chris Younger on Project R. And as Beth has mentioned, the public hearing concerning the rezoning will be opened, but the matter has been withdrawn, so we won't act on that. Administrative matters appropriate for our consent agenda. If you please run through those, tee them up, Beth.
Okay, thank you, Chairman Mallory. The first item is a request from Planning and Development for approval to call for a public hearing on September the 17th, 2019 at 7 p.m. in regard to a request by Blue Jay Investments, LLC to release zoning and subdivision jurisdiction to the town of Mooresville. And Matthew Todd is here to make that request.
Okay, Mr. Todd.
Good evening. The ETJ request we have before us tonight, or again, this is just the call, so the site has not been posted yet or letters mailed. They have applied for voluntary annexation with the town of Mooresville, which would be effective December of this year. You can see it's existing lots, and they're proposing townhomes for this development. I'd be happy to answer any additional questions.
Any questions of Mr. Todd? Consent?
Consent.
Thank you, Mr. Todd. The next item is a request from the Parks and Recreation Department, and Michelle Hepler is here to request approval for the sponsorship opportunity package for the purpose of further developing amenities at various parks and facilities throughout Iredell County.
Hey, thank you. Good evening, everyone.
How are you doing, Michelle?
So I'm bringing this back before you. The last presentation, you guys gave several recommendations for some modifications and edits. We have taken the document, revised it to include the suggested revisions. And if you guys will, just let me highlight those major changes. Most notably, we did add the inclusion of the county manager or designee in the review of applications prior to going to the Recreation Advisory Board for their recommendation. Number 2 was specifying very specifically in the payment plan the balance due date. So if 50% is paid up front, then 50% would also be paid in 180 days, which is every 6 months. And just note that that particular payment plan applies to items that have a duration of more than just, a year. So it does not apply for trees, benches, tables, and bricks, but your more notably items such as fields and picnic shelters and such. And then the third major thing is just making sure that both of those two changes are present in 3 different locations within the document. They're in the cover letter, they are in the important sponsorship notes, and they are also included in the sponsorship application page. So on page 1, the cover letter, page 13, and on page 14, I think, to very certainly emphasize all of that information, and it wouldn't be overlooked, so to speak. Additionally, we removed the words relate to or in the exclusionary language specific to the review of qualifying or available opportunities. And I will answer any questions if you have them.
How many sponsorships do we currently have?
That's a good question. There are sponsorship signs in the outfield of our baseball fields. We have fields at Stumpy Creek that are named. When Stumpy Creek was built and opened in 2001, a one-time single donation of $15,000 got a name on a field, and because there wasn't anything in place, such as a sponsorship package or a naming rights policy, those lifetime naming rights are there indefinitely. And so hopefully these things that we're putting into place over the last several months will position us to not be in a place like that again.
Are there any additional questions for Michelle? Comments?
Are we just going to bring them in the loop if this policy is put into place? We'll just notify them. Are those like expiring, or?
Lifetime.
A lifetime.
Okay, so those will just be listed to the policy as of the date approved that they're existing?
Yes,
Is
sir.
that something we need to do, Lisa? Is list and attach to the new policy the people that are already in place only? So there's public record that who was already in place, or how is that documented?
So if you'll notice in your sponsorship opportunity packet, like for example on page 2 where it talks about baseball fields, the only available location is Jennings Park. So it does not list Stumpy Creek as an available option. Soccer fields and baseball fields at Stumpy are already named, and we did not feel comfortable removing those names. So in the package, we just limited the availability to the locations
So what's
which,
available?
right, to what's available, correct.
Okay, thank you.
And you'll modify that if fields are built in the future?
Correct.
At those locations?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anything further? Consent?
Consent. Thank you for your work. Appreciate
Thank you
Yes,
very much.
thank you for your guidance. I appreciate it.
everybody.
Good stuff.
Thank you, Michelle. She's going to remain at the podium because she has the next item as well, which is a request to apply for a grant with the USA Archery.
Yes. So
I have one out of my question.
Okay.
Okay, so now we have a policy. How are people are going to know that this is an option?
for the sponsorship opportunity, so we'll put that information on our website. We will post that information in our kiosks at our parks, and we'll also send it out to anyone that's on our mailing list or participate. You know, within our department, we have a database of members and people who've participated in programs and sports leagues and that sort of thing. So it'll go out in a mass email of anybody in our database. So the next request would be for an approval to apply for a grant with USA Archery to support the purchase of archery equipment and program development for the citizens of Iredell County. We have some rudimentary archery equipment that we purchased a number of years ago for our summer camp program. And as that sport continues to grow and develop within the communities, we would like to be able to expand on that. And this grant opportunity came across our desk kind of last minute. And we thought if we could put everything in the right place at the right time, it would be a great opportunity. We've been researching ways to implement an actual program, and would love to be able to do that at various locations, of our different properties. This would provide this financial support for that. If the approval is granted to apply for the grant and the grant is awarded, the archery grant would help provide the funding towards establishing the new program. Future budget implications could include the need to replace the equipment or purchase additional equipment for program expansion, train or recertify program staff. If awarded, it would provide up to $5,000. The state is eligible for $40,000. They typically administer or award 8 different grants in the amount of up to $5,000. There is no match required on our behalf. We are not required to provide any kind of reporting in terms of the number of program participants or data back to the organization. The only thing that we would do in the end would be recertify our staff to be trained to teach those programs and classes. Again, I'll answer any questions.
Would you share with other board members, I think we actually have a fairly significant number of kids that participate in archery program locally. I know former Commissioner Renee Griffith is very active in the statewide and national organizations. So,
a lot of their students got scholarships.
I believe that Ms. Griffith indicated the last time I spoke to her, or she gave a presentation at our Rotary organization, that they administered $5.3 million in archery scholarships last year. The sport is definitely growing. The sport is in some high schools. There are, different high schools throughout the community that have an archery team. So it is certainly something that, again, we have offered to our summer camp counselor or summer camp campers for a number of years, and would like to be able to open it up, to folks outside of that summer camp program.
okay. Any further comment? Consent?
Consent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before you leave, can we put you on the spot and get a quick rundown, since you've closed down the summer programs, and just some level of participation and achievements?
Sure. So this past summer, we expanded our summer camp program to include a third location at our facility at the Recreation Center. That program was at capacity or with a waiting list almost each week. There were a couple of weeks we had 1 or 2 spots open, which brought our total number of summer campers in the Camp Ardle program to 110 students per week. It is operated very similarly, but it has a different schedule than the other 2 locations. So Mooresville is at capacity with 55. We had 20 at the Rec Center location, and we had 35 here in Statesville. That's an update specific to Camp Iredell. Soccer season starts this coming weekend. We have over 600 students registered, or players registered in our league, with another 600 registered in the South Iredell Soccer Association League in the South End that plays at Stumpy Creek. And we last report that I shared with Ms. Jones, I think 2 weeks ago, we are at 1,553 total members at our rec center. Our benchmark for the end of the fiscal year, FY19, was 500, with a goal of 800 going in 2020. And so we have 871 membership units. That includes all of our paying members and our partnered members. Partnered members include Children's Hope Alliance as part of our purchase proposal. There's 100 staff there, 40 students. We also provide memberships to DPATS, which is an ISS program that is based at the Barium Springs location. They use our facility for their adaptive PE classes for the autistic children there. And then we are temporarily partnering with the town of Troutman's fire department while their building is under renovation.
So you've almost doubled the goal? Is that what you're saying? You said.
We have met the goal. So our benchmark was 800 membership units, and we are at 871. About 170 of those memberships are actual partnership memberships, such as the ones that are where we work with these other organizations to provide access to that facility. So 795 paid memberships.
Very good.
Any
Please
other?
congratulate your staff.
Thank you.
Great job.
They are the driving force behind our success for sure. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. And we've already consented on that one item you had, so we just held you a little beyond.
It's okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Okay, the next item is a request from Finance, and Deb Cheek is here to make this request for approval of Budget Amendment Number 3 to appropriate contingency to the schools.
Good evening. In fiscal year 15, this board decided to help the school systems in their construction projects to let them accumulate permit cost throughout the year and only charge write a one-time check to our inspections department for that, and to pay for that out of contingency. So each year I've come to you and asked for the respective school systems and the permits that they have pulled during the year. And this past fiscal year for Iredell Statesville, the amount of permits was $1,861. For Mooresville Graded, $1,623, for a total of $3,484. And I'm asking for a budget amendment number 3 to appropriate contingency to pay for those permits.
Any questions for Ms. Cheek?
Yeah, I don't object to doing this, but I would like to see next year, can we change it and let's make this a budget item that goes under the school system. Our contingency should be for unexpected things. This is expected. So again, I'm going to vote for it. Not a problem. Do I have any problems with the money? Do I have any problems with the fact that this is the way it was decided to be done? I'm just saying, if we have a ballpark idea of what it would be, let's stick it in a line item and we'll amend our school budget. That way, whenever people see how much do we allocate for education, this falls under that number.
Okay.
Is that agreeable?
When was this policy first enacted?
Fiscal year 15 was the first year we did it. Pretty much after the... I'm sorry. It started in conjunction with those 14 bonds so that it would kind of keep their process flowing as they start ramped up for their buildings.
Where did those fees go? What is that money used for? Does it go back into building standards or what?
Yes, it just goes into our inspection department just like any contractor would pull a permit.
This is an internal shuffle.
Yeah.
It is.
No problem. I agree with Commissioner Robertson. There's no reason that it shouldn't be rolled into the total cost of whatever they're doing in terms of bonds. Okay, consent?
Consent.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item is a request from the clerk to the board for approval of minutes from the meeting on August the 20th, 2019.
Okay. So consent?
Consent.
And then the final item is Mr. Jody Smyer, who's here with Emergency Management to give us an update on the hurricane and all the preparedness activities.
There's a hurricane coming?
Yeah.
We hope not.
It's called Jeff McNeely at 7.
Yeah, that's it. He's still hitting.
Okay, Jody, I appreciate your being here. I asked for him to give an update relative to the effects that we might feel and what it may impact in terms of our personnel being placed on standby for commitments to the east.
Good afternoon to y'all. Couple things. I just got the latest forecast. Let me find that on my phone here. It looks like it's going to be somewhere Myrtle Beach area about 2 p.m. Thursday, and then affecting the coast of North Carolina throughout the next 24 hours till Friday about 2 p.m. Then it looks like it's over about Virginia. Don't know what wind speed that is. Looks like it's still hurricane force. Earlier it was still a Category 2, which is, I wrote it down somewhere on my notes, 96 to 110 miles per hour. We're really not expecting any effects here. I think west of Raleigh, I believe everyone's going to be okay unless something changes. And if it takes a left turn suddenly, then we'll have to regroup. So the request I had was for a couple different things. Update on the preparations of state. So every day they send out a state basically report, and it tells all kinds of things about what they've done. But currently the state emergency operations center is at level 1, which means it's fully staffed with both emergency services, public health, shelter, business partners. All kinds of folks are in there now working to do everything. And this report was done about 10 o'clock this morning. There'll be another one come out later today, but it's not out yet, so I couldn't get you any more information. Currently, there are 8 county EOCs activated, 7 local states of emergencies, and about 308 resources requested. Of those resources, the National Guard's on standby, 122 high clearance vehicles, 1,600 National Guard soldiers have been placed on alert but not actually activated. 22 swift water teams and 4 urban search and rescue teams have been activated, and that's just state of North Carolina. They have opened a large shelter in Durham that will hold several thousand people for basically refugees from the coast that are evacuating. They've enacted several different ambulance strike teams and medical evacuation buses in case something happens. They need to evacuate nursing homes or hospitals or something of that nature. Communications is really ramped up this event from last time when Florence happened, and we'll talk more about that here in just a minute. But they've really got a lot of wireless phone company assets down there, Extra Towers, Verizon, and AT&T and Sprint, and all of them's down there. The governor's issued a bunch of executive orders. One of them's to evacuate the barrier islands, lifted a bunch of restrictions on trucks and things like that. So, and that's pretty much the highlights of what the state's doing. With communications, once again, our communication center, ECOM, is partnered up with Carteret County like they were during Florence. They do have a Viper channel that is going to be their way of contact. If something happens and we can't call them, then they can talk through Viper frequencies, which is what we did last time. They have tested that this morning. We do have the Carteret County talk groups on the consoles, and they're fully operational. So what that means is if a 911 call comes in here, they can get the information and they can actually dispatch that call from here down there to the responders. They do have some additional telecommunicators on standby to handle calls for Carteret County if so needed. And they're having daily conference calls to discuss the situation back and forth with Carteret. The last thing, assets deployed. Kent Green has been deployed to Jones County to serve as the planning sections chief for their EOC. Jamie Barrier with Mooresville Fire and an IT gentleman from the city of Mooresville, town of Mooresville. I'm not sure what his name is, but they are both in the RCC East, which is in Kinston, and functioning as communications leader, and the IT guys helping with that. Mooresville Fire Rescue has deployed their Type 1 Swiftwater team, and they're currently in Kinston. That's 15 personnel. With them, they have 4 Zodiac boats, 2 drones, and their field comm unit. So they're pretty self-sufficient for a week or so. For us here on the home front, I think our effects are going to be limited, like I said, unless something drastically changes. But our EOC is ready if we need to open it. One other note I did put down here, or 2 other notes. FEMA has 16 different teams deployed to the southeast. I don't know if any of those are in North Carolina currently. If they are, they're well east of here. And the fair is ongoing through Saturday. We have talked to Mr. Head and talked with those guys. They will shut down if the wind speeds are above 25 miles an hour, heavy rain or lightning's in the forecast. So we have made some contingency plans with those folks.
Do we have any other rescue assets for Swiftwater?
Yes, the and I didn't say that. Mooresville did leave a Type 3 team here. They do have another Zodiac here with personnel if something happens here. And Charlotte did the same thing. They left a team.
But none of our other...
Iredell Rescue's got I don't know if the Iredell Rescue, I don't know if they've got a Swiftwater team, but they've got the equipment.
And North Iredell also.
Yeah, North Iredell.
Yeah, they have water, okay.
Yes.
Because, you know, the last hurricane that swamped, literally and figuratively, the eastern part of our state, that was a Category 1 hurricane. It went slow. This is a Category 2 hurricane. This is going slow.
Yeah.
So, I guess my point being, listen, I assume that they're aware that somebody's tapped them because that's who was needed last time.
Yes, and the state emergency management, they're the ones that deploy these assets, and they did leave some strategically placed Swiftwater assets in the west just in case something happens. So we're not, all of our boats are not on the coast. We've got some that we can still deploy.
It's going to all depend on the track.
It is. Everything that we keep seeing that's going off the coast, it's not coming inland, but we all know that can change. And if it does, I think things will be coming back west in a hurry. So
there was a story in the news about somebody who they drove their vehicle into water. It was covering the road and some stuff that the e-com person said on the phone to them, and you can talk about what's appropriate, what's inappropriate. But the fact of the matter is if we know if these assets have to be deployed from our community to a known danger, you know, probably part of our communication to everybody is telling them, we're not going to have anybody left, you know, for anybody to act irresponsibly.
Resources will have a limitation.
Yeah, there's going to be some limitations. So, I mean, the right thing for us to do is good neighbors, good North Carolinians, and good Americans. Is, you know, we have these assets that are prepared and skilled and trained to go do these things that require high degree of skill and certain degree of risk. So, you know, I think we should not hesitate to send them, but probably on the back end we ought to at least have some way, don't know what the best way is, for us to communicate that they're gone.
Yeah.
Okay? Everybody drive careful. We have fewer ambulances here. Yeah, I say that figuratively, not literally, but you know, to me, that makes sense to do because they're going to be needed at the coast, not waiting around here for somebody to be irresponsible. So,
correct.
For what it's worth. And we spent a lot of money giving these rescue units these capabilities. If somebody needs them because of a hurricane, that's where they ought to be.
Okay, Jody, I appreciate the update, and we'll just add that on the consent agenda. As a report received, consent?
Consent.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank you.
all you guys' work. A good job, too, on the McGuire exercise a couple weeks ago.
Thank
Okay, that takes care of the consent agenda, and everything's consented to. We have one announcement of a vacancy appearing on a board and commission. That's on the Lake Norman Marine Commission. And that is simply an announcement at this point.
Correct.
No appointments this evening, no unfinished business. Well, I'll ask of any of the commissioners if there's
I
unfinished
have one
business.
small item I'll just mention at 7, brief.
Small item.
Important, non-controversial.
This is not a public comment period. Any new business that anyone anticipates? And then we have a preview of the county manager's report.
It is short and sweet, just to let everybody know that our fair is still
County
continuing.
manager, right?
There you go. Absolutely. There you go. I'll take that one. Just to let everybody know that our agricultural fair is still going on and will be continuing through Saturday, weather permitting.
Okay, well, at this time, we will move into a closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11, subsection A3, to discuss legal matters relative to attorney-client discussions, and also economic development opportunities pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11, subsection A4. We are now in executive session.